Dyed Yarns. I am Sam. I am the dyer behind Magically Dyed Yarns. So today I wanted to take you guys through how I kind of come up with new colorways for our shop, and if you were interested in getting started, I wanted to share with you kind of what I do and how I do it, so that way you can give it a try at home for yourself. I will be going through my materials, and I am going to be using Dharma Trading Company's starter kit. It comes with 6 dyes and citric acid, and then you just need to buy a stainless steel pot, or I'm using mason jars. You just need a way to hold your yarn and your dye together and then heat it up, and you get beautiful yarn. So let's get started. These are some of the basic tools that you need to get started dyeing yarn at home. You need some acid dye. I buy mine from Dharma Trading Company. They have a starter kit that's really great. It comes with 6 different acid dyes, citric acid. It's a really affordable way to get started. I believe the last time I checked, the cost was around $35. So that kit comes with Caribbean Blue, True Black, Fire Engine Red, Brilliant Yellow, Dark Navy, and Deep Magenta. And like I said, it also comes with citric acid, not this one. I used the citric acid that it came with. I just bought this one off of Amazon. You can also use vinegar if you don't want to use citric acid. You're going to need some way to measure out your dry dye powder. I use a scale. I feel like I can get the most accurate recreations when I use a scale, because this one goes down to grams, like a tenth of a gram. And so I feel like I get a really accurate, I can recreate pretty easily, as opposed to using measuring spoons, which some dyers do use. It's just, I feel like that takes a little more practice, just making sure you get a consistent depth of shade with that. You do need a respirator mask. We are working with dry powder, so some of the particles can get in the air, and obviously that's going to irritate your lungs, so make sure you wear a mask. You need a container for the yarn and some water. I'm going to be using mason jars today. I also do use just the kettle in the back right there. It's just going to do 5 mini skeins with different shades. I feel like this is going to be the best option. You do need a heat set, so that is why I have a steamer basket in there right now. I'm going to throw these into that steamer basket and heat set the yarn. If you don't heat set, when you go to wash the yarn, it is just all going to come out. And you need a way to measure your liquid dyes. And so I will be using graduated cylinders and this is an infant medicine syringe. We didn't need it anymore and I had extra. And so I use that to measure out my dyes. So I have a towel down on my table to protect it from any dye that drops onto my table. That way my table doesn't get stained and my husband doesn't get mad. So in these 2 cups right here, all I did was I dissolved 0.5 grams of the dry dye powder into 50 milliliters of hot water. The hot water helps to dissolve the dye faster than cold water and more efficiently. The wool that I am going to be using today is the Platinum Sock Base from Wool to Dye for. It is a 25% nylon, 75% superwash merino wool. That is the yarn that we currently have available in the shop. You can also get other bases. Wool to Dye for has a ton. We used to use just bare yarn from Knit Picks, but I was having some trouble getting it. There were some inconsistencies with the yarn. So we switched companies. There's a ton of companies that sell yarn. Those are the 2 that I use most often. So to get started with our fade from Deep Magenta to Caribbean Blue, we are going to start with adding the liquid dyes into our mason jars. So this is going to be 20 milliliters of the dye. This is going to be 15, 10, and then 5. And then starting on this one, this is going to be 20 milliliters of the Caribbean Blue, 15, 10, and 5. This is going to give us a 1% depth of shade for each mini skein that we are using. You can play with that to get more of a pastel color. You can also increase it and use, say, 40 milliliters of the dye to create it's a 2% depth of shade. It's going to be a lot more richer and deeper. It just depends on the look that you are going for. So I'm going to get started adding these dyes into our jars. I am wiping off my spoon in between each to avoid cross-contamination because I don't want more blue going into the pink or more pink going into the blue. I can only do 3 at a time because that is all that fits in my size pot, and I will check back in with you guys when our yarn is ready to be washed. Alright guys, it is the next day now, and here are our finished mini skeins. So what I did off camera was I put those mason jars into my steamer basket. I've put water into the pot so that way the water level was about halfway up the mason jars. And then I covered it with tin foil since my lid did not fit on top of my pot anymore. And I steamed those for about an hour to an hour and a half, checking on it every 20 minutes to see if our dye was exhausted. What it means when the dye is exhausted is that all of the dye particles that were in the water have been absorbed into the yarn and the water is then clear. These actually did a great job absorbing all of that beautiful color, so that way when I rinsed it out, I didn't have a lot of bleeding. If you're a knitter and you block your items, you may notice that sometimes certain colors tend to bleed or come out of the yarn when you go to block it. Same thing happens when you dye the yarn. When we go to wash it, some of that color does bleed out, but these ones actually did a really good job of holding onto that color, which means that we set it really nicely with the heat and the citric acid. I did have to go back in and add a little bit more citric acid just to help the yarn absorb it, but I think these turned out beautifully. They're absolutely gorgeous. If I had to pick one to be my favorite, it's gonna be this one. I love all of the color variation in this mini skein, just with the light blues, the dark blues. I just think this is absolutely gorgeous. If you like this mini skein set, it will be available in our Etsy shop until the next Dye With Me comes out. I will leave a link to our Etsy shop in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed making it. I hope you learned something. I hope you were inspired. I hope maybe if you want to give yarn dyeing a try, you do. Hopefully this makes it a little less scary. If you want to pick the colors for our next Dye With Me, leave a comment down below. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Turn on the notifications to know when our next video goes live. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments below and I will try to address them in the next video. And until the next time, happy crafting!